Good afternoon. I'm Joel Franklin. Welcome to today's JLG webinar series, The Buzz About New Teen Books. From An Angry Banana to Stories of Teens Behind Bars to Witchcraft, these are books your teen readers won't want to miss. Our newest JLG book talker, Kayleigh Hanlin, joins Deborah today. And please join our conversation on Twitter. You can tweet us at JR Library Guild, and you can use the hashtag JLGWebinars. If you have any questions or comments, you can send those in at any time via the red Q&A box. So Deborah, what's all this about An Angry Banana?
I couldn't believe when I got this book, Revenge of the Green Banana, and I thought, this is so silly. Who wrote this silly little book? And I look and I see it's Jim Murphy, and I thought, no, it's not. Jim Murphy writes nonfiction. He's written more than 30 books about American history. Yeah. And I'm reading it, and I keep thinking, are we sure Jim Murphy wrote this? So I did a little looking, and it turned out that it's partly, what do you call it, biographical.
Oh.
Yeah. So in this story, Jim Murphy is in the 6th grade, and he's pretty sure Sister Angelica Rose is out to get him. So she humiliates him in class and punishes him when he really hasn't done anything wrong. So she sends him to the 2nd grade, where he immediately becomes a performer in the 2nd grade program where he wears a giant banana costume. So he's actually, though, a classic underachiever with a talent for trouble, which is one of the reasons why he thinks his teacher is out to get him. But he and his friends want revenge, hence the Revenge of the Green Banana. And so they plan a prank to embarrass Sister Angelica in front of the whole school. What could possibly go wrong? Well, so here's how the story begins. Where to start? Where to start a story is the hardest part of starting it. I could write about the first day of every year. I went to St. Stephen's because each one was strange and awful in a different way every time, of course. For instance, I was probably the only kid ever who was suspended on his first day in kindergarten, even before I actually stepped foot inside the school, no kidding. How did I manage that? I was online with all the other kindergartners marching into school for the very first time. Before I got to the door, I spotted a bunch of kids down the sidewalk a ways, pushing my older brother Jerry around and bullying him. So I charged out of line and tackled one of the kids hard enough to knock him to the ground. Now remember, this kid's in kindergarten, right? A second later, a very big nun yanked me to my feet and called for the principal, Sister Rosemary. This was not, as you might imagine, the very best first impression. And that's just day one of kindergarten. And now he's in 6th grade. John Sheska says, if you ever went to Catholic school or you never went to Catholic school, you want to read this funny, smart, kid-true book. It explains everything. It was hilarious.
Sounds
absolutely hilarious. I hope he will write a lot more fiction. So, Kayleigh, you got a book coming up.
Yes, Girl Rising, Changing the World One Girl at a Time. So most of us are used to having a book come out and then later they'll make a movie, but this is actually the reverse. So Tanya Lee Stone, in her author brain, saw the movie Girl Rising that came out in 2013. And she thought, there's got to be more girls and more research and more film that this crew had done based on this movie than cutting down to the 9 girls that they actually featured. And, of course, she was right. So she wrote this great companion book to the film to talk about the challenges of why is it that 62 million girls are not in school worldwide.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? So this book has beautiful colored photos and great infographics to work to teach the young readers about express abstract ideas. There are some potential sensitive areas, including slavery, human trafficking, and violence against women and children. But this is a book that's so powerful, Deb, that when I was reading it, I wanted to get out of my chair and go help them.
Oh,
you know, and
yeah.
I'm realizing halfway through as I read that this isn't something that an author thought of in their imagination or was based on a true story. This is someone's real life. And you just it was very much a tissue book, as you would say, and you definitely just wanted to get out of that chair and go help them.
Go and help them.
In our live binder, I did include the link to the Girl Rising video. So their website is up there, and they do allow you to showcase the video, and they waive all the fees for that. So if you wanted to showcase to your community, you're welcome to do that. It's just a small form that they have you fill out, and then they talk about how it could impact the people that are going to watch the video. So here at JLG, we'd love to hear from you guys if you end up doing that through social media. We'd love to see photos or hear from you guys through posting or tagging. It would be great to know that you're definitely watching that video along with reading the book.
That's awesome. And of course, when you share your idea, it often gives somebody else an idea.
Right.
You know, and so we can all kind of pay it forward.
Exactly.
Right.
Chain reaction.
Yay. I do want to comment on the categories that you can see on the slides today. For those of you who are new to Junior Library Guild, we have spies in New York who read these manuscripts and choose all the books. So everything that we select has been read, and then we put them in categories, either by genre or interest level. And so this one is a nonfiction middle, so it's for grades 5 to 8, but it's also a plus category. So what plus means is you get 2 extra books a month instead of 1 book a month.
Correct.
But you get your 2 extra books right at the beginning of the school year.
Correct.
So just when everybody is back and all excited about ready to read again, you get a couple of extra books. But otherwise you get your regular 1 book. So when we started choosing our books for this teen thing, I just started picking, things I wanted to read, people I knew, people I didn't know, and then all of a sudden, just recently, I discovered a pattern.
What is that?
Prison.
Man, going to prison, really.
I went to prison. Some of you know I went to prison in North Carolina in December and worked with some inmates there. And then, of course, we had the 1 book about prison about Perry T.
All
Cook.
Rise.
All Rise for Perry T. Cook. And I thought, wow, we need some more books about prison. And ta-da, in 2017, we get some. So this one is not only a book about prison, it's our beloved Jerry Spinelli. So it's been a couple of years since Jerry published a book, and I saw an NPR interview just recently, and he said, people come from other people, and if you remove one of the elements in that equation, you're left with someone who is, in some sense, abandoned, and that changes the equation. So this is a story of a 12-year-old girl named Cammie. It's the summer of her 13th birthday, and when she was just a baby, her mother saved her from being hit by a car, but she died as a result. And so Cammie has grown up without a mom in a prison because she is, of course, the warden's daughter. Mm. And so she has all these caretakers of her, prison trustees who are the housekeepers. And in her 12th year, she's decided it's time to have a mom. But in the process of being the warden's daughter, she's kind of turned into this feisty, curmudgeon kind of kid. Or maybe it's just because she's become 13. And she's just not a lovely person all the time. But she has a relationship with some of the female inmates, and one of them, especially Alota, who is her current prison trustee housekeeper, wants Alota to be her.
Aww.
And it's blue. It's a tissue book. It's kind of how that happened last year. But it's a story about the loss of a mom and the finding of filling that hole. How do we fill that hole? And it's a reminder, too, I think, that kids don't want to stay all alone. They don't want to be the orphan child. They want somebody to guide them. And so they make a lot of mistakes, and they act out, and they do things that aren't so great because of that. So this is Cammie's story, and it's based on a real story. Jerry had a friend who was a warden's daughter, and there are a couple of videos of Jerry talking about the book and the live binder. So do check those out. I think you'll like them.
Universal Harvester by John Darnielle. Okay, so we have to step back into a time before there was video streaming on demand, where you had to go physically to a store to rent a VHS tape.
A VHS tape?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
To get the latest movies that were coming out from Hollywood. So this story is based in the late 90s, and Jeremy works at Video Hut in a very small town in Iowa. And he has 2 customers that come back and tell him that something else is on this tape. Something else is in between this movie. So he starts watching these videos and starts digging into how these got on a VHS tape in the first place and why they're there. And I won't spoil any more because this is a very well-written book. It is in our adult crossover category, so it is for most likely older students. But while I was reading, I was racking my brain to try to figure out what was going on. But along the way, the plot twist and the shifting of perspectives, just like the shifting of the perspectives in the movie with the VHS tape, kept me interested in reading just a little bit more. And then I'd get a little nugget of information. And then I kept reading just a little bit more. So it was one of those, I finished in almost a day because I couldn't put it down.
Wow. That's awesome. Cool. And it kind of reminds me of, there's another book in our high school bracket called Takedown.
Okay.
Do you know that book yet? Takedown?
I have not seen it come through.
It's about a girl who, there's a video of her doing a not very good thing with someone she should not be doing it with, and it's posted on social media, and she realizes it's her.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I won't spoil anything on that one either. On a whole nother note.
Very much so.
On a note, we're off to see the wizard. So I picked this book just for 2 reasons. One, it had red shoes on the front, and I went, I wonder if this is Wizard of Oz, which, of course, everybody knows. Yes? What are the color of the real shoes? Book. Out there in audience land, what are the color of the Wizard of Oz shoes? By Baum. They are silver.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Right. Yeah, they're silver. But red looks so much better on a yellow brick road.
Yes, than silver
in
ever would.
1939. Right. And this is a story. It's also by Holly Goldberg's clone, which I love her so much. I love her so much. She wrote Counting by Sevens, which came out a couple of years ago, and in fact, it was one of my picks for Newbery that year. I loved that book so much. But let me read to you from the book. That's the best way to start this one. I spend a lot of time looking up. My parents aren't short. My mom's even on the tall side. But my grandma Mittens, we really call her that, is tiny. I'm not good at science, but sometimes the genes from another generation sneak in and scramble the action. This might be to help you bond with the old people in your family. One night when I was in 3rd grade, I felt a sore throat coming on. I went down to ask for an aspirin or at least warm salt water to gargle. If there was a peanut butter cookie left on the dessert plate, I thought that might also help. My parents were hanging out in the living room, and I heard my father say, well, we're lucky Julia's a girl. What if she was a boy and she was short? That short. I stopped moving. They were talking about me. I waited for my mom to say, come on, Glenn, she's not that short. But she didn't. She said, right, it's my mom's fault. Mitten did it to her. And then they both laughed. Something had been done to me. Like a crime. It was someone's fault. I know they love me like crazy, but I'm short, and they aren't. Until that moment, I didn't realize my size was a problem for them. Their words made a heavy feeling on my shoulders, and I wasn't even wearing a bathrobe. It was like having sand and wet shoes, or a knot of tangled hair that can't be combed through because there's gum in the middle. Plus, part of their statement was sexist. Also wrong. I went back up to my room and didn't even ask for pain help. I climbed into the covers next to my dog, Ramon. He was asleep with his head on my pillow. When we first got him, he was not allowed on the bed, but rules with dogs don't count in the same way as rules. I whispered in Ramon, I'm never going to say the word short out loud again. I didn't know how hard it would be. That word is everywhere. Think about it. It is everywhere.
Very much so.
And especially if you're short, you might be conscious of that word. And so Julia Marks is short for her age, but this summer she gets into a regional theater production of one of my. And guess what part she gets?
I already know.
Oh, she read it too. That's right. She is a munchkin. And so, of course, now she's even more horrified because she's a munchkin. But for a girl who calls herself short. This summer proves to be proof that good things, amazing things, come in small packages, and we should never judge from the outside. It's got a quirky cast of characters from a fellow munchkin named Olive, who doesn't, she's a dwarf, but she doesn't let her dwarfism define her. There's an artistic neighbor who is insanely talented, helps her get what she wants, and then there's Sean Barr, the director, who takes Julia under his wing. So many wonderful things. Like this. She goes to meet Olive, the other munchkin, because she wants to quit the show. Remember when she wants to quit the show?
Mm-hmm.
And so Olive says, meet me for an ice cream. And so they have ice cream. They don't talk at all. They just eat. And then Olive says, I'll see you at rehearsal. And Julia's thinking, what happened here? I came here to quit. What do you mean, see you at rehearsal? And she walks home and she tries to figure out what happened. I decide that Olive believes in me. I think showing up and eating the ice cream was her way to say that. Maybe you don't have to speak to be heard, because I don't remember silence being so loud before.
There's a lot of well-written quotes in there.
There are.
For sure. And Julia reminds me a lot of myself as a child.
Ah.
And not only was I short, but I think some of the quirks and the ways she thinks, pretty relatable.
Yeah. Great book. And for readers who love this book, of course, send them to Counting by Sevens, and then also send them to Tim Federle's books, like Better Nate Than Never and 5678. They are musical.
Fish
Speaking of
Girl.
a book we both read.
Yay.
Yes.
Fish Girl is a young mermaid who is living in a sideshow attraction along the boardwalk run by Neptune, King of the Sea. And Neptune is very much her caretaker, but she's also very much captive in this aquarium that she lives in. And he kind of protects her and tells her stories about her life, but she doesn't communicate. So it's all thought, I suppose. She doesn't communicate with words.
Right.
But she does have an encounter with a young, ordinary girl who visits the aquarium one day, and they develop this amazing bond, and this friendship grows throughout the story. But when Fish Girl finds out that Neptune has lied to her, she becomes curious about the outside world beyond her tank, and she becomes curious about what else Neptune might be hiding from her. This is really a story of her kind of discovering herself, her independence, kind of becoming a little brave and venturing out beyond the tank with her fish friends and her best friend, the octopus.
It's a great pairing. It's David Wiesner, who's a 3-time Caldecott artist, who started the story, and he got his friend Donna Jo to write her first graphic novel, so we could actually include her in the debut part of it. So, EXO, science fiction. It's in the fantasy high school category. Written by Fonda Lee. So, yes, Renee Holes, if you are listening, you are correct. I took a picture of the books I might talk about and just showed the edges, and Renee nailed it.
Wow.
She did good.
Just by the edges?
Just by the edges. Well, you can see a couple of the colors on the bottom. So she's been paying attention. She knows what's coming. So in this book, EXO, it's been 100 years since aliens came to the Earth and colonized it. And so there is a family, the Reyes family. Donovan is a soldier. And when he was 5 years old, he got this exocell. So it's kind of like armor that's in your human body and then just comes out whenever you need it.
You're almost like an X-Men.
Yes, like that. And he's going to be a soldier. He's been trained to be a soldier his whole life, and he's going to be in the military, probably forever. His father is the big cheese. He's the prime liaison between the aliens and the Earth people. But when there is a change of regime, there's often animosity and rebellion. And that's the case here. So even though it's been 100 years long, the humans don't want the alien race in charge of them. So there are all these little revolutions that are all over creation. And Donovan kind of gets mixed up quite by accident. He's kidnapped. And he learned something during his kidnap. Spoiler alert, I will not say.
Uh-oh.
Yes. Where he questions everything he's ever been taught.
Oh.
About himself,
Ooh.
about his family, about the aliens, about humans. And now he's being forced to choose sides where he feels divided. So it's very gripping. Would be probably a great movie. And I just saw Fonda say one day earlier this week that there is a sequel coming. And she expects it to be in 2018. In the meantime, fans might want to read Zero Boxer, which, if you are a Junior Library Guild member, dun-da-da, don't forget the backlist. You can get Zero Boxer for just $5. $5? $5.
Wow.
Yep, better get it today because it'll be gone tomorrow.
The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. So T is a young girl who discovers that she's a witch, clearly by accidentally raising her older brother Fox from the dead.
Whoops.
Yes.
Accidentally?
Accidentally.
Whoops, excuse me, I accidentally raised you from the dead.
Yeah, and news travels fast about that kind of stuff. So in the world of the Bone Witch, there are many different kinds of witches that can manipulate water and earth, but T is very unique because she is considered a bone witch, and it's just her and one other person alive that does this kind of magic. They can raise people from the dead. People, things, animals, all kinds of stuff. So it's her story of training to become an Asha, or a witch in their culture, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the geisha culture in Asia, where they have to dress a certain way, they do their makeup a certain way, their hair a certain way, they learn to entertain, singing and dancing, that sort of thing. So it's really her journey, and of course wherever she goes, Fox goes too, as he is now permanently tied to her because she accidentally raised him from the dead. So this is book 1, and so I'm really, really excited to see what happens next. Because the author does a great job of plot twist and hiding the real villain in the story.
Oh.
I don't give anything away.
Give me that book. I'm taking it on the plane. Well, back to prison.
Just a big old loop of prison.
Yeah, back to prison. I did have one more book, and I put it in the handout. So when you download the handout, you go to the resource folder, and you click, da-da, there's a little handout. Or if you're hearing this on the archive version, you can also go to the website and get it. I included that book, Teen Incarceration, which was a nonfiction book about the scary thing about teen incarceration and where it came from and the changes that have been made and what's going on. But this one, An Uninterrupted View of the Sky, is a novel by Melanie Crowder. Oh, my gosh. You talk about a person who's good with words. It's Melanie Crowder, too. And in this story, we're in Bolivia in 1999. And it's the story of the impact of Law 1008, which I don't know anything about. But in Bolivia, the Bolivian Congress passed a law in 1988 under strong pressure from the U.S. government. And under that law, Bolivians that are charged with drug offenses, no matter how minor, are imprisoned without the possibility for pretrial release. So we think you have marijuana or cocaine or something, you're going to jail. And you're going to stay there till your trial comes up, which could be years. Then, on top of that, if your family can no longer pay for a house because the dad's in prison, then the family comes to live in the prison.
With you?
With you. And not even that, where's the rest of my notes? Oh, here we go. They have to pay for the stuff in the prison. So if you want a cell, you have to pay for a cell. If you want food, you have to pay for your food. If you want somebody not to beat you up, then you have to pay for that.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, people think it's harsh in prison here, but I just went, oh, my goodness, that's really, really scary. And so with the installation of this law, here's the difference it impacted. In San Sebastian prison, in 1987, 8 men went in. In 1994, after this law was enacted, 175.
Wow.
Yeah, big. And so these prisons weren't made for all those people. And so this is a story about a boy whose father was in the wrong place at the wrong time. His car ran out of gas. He gets picked up. He's put in prison. The mom can't handle it. She leaves. And so there is a teenage boy and a first-grade little girl living with their father in this prison. And it's a story of their survival. How do you break up your family and go live with your grandparents in the country? Or how do I go to college? I mean, it brings up a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And I think if you have a teen group, if you're a public librarian and you got a teen, you should do this book. You should so do this book and have a chat about it because there's a lot to talk about.
Looking at the cover, it seems to fit the pattern of a tissue book being blue.
Oh, it does. You're exactly right.
Life in Motion, An Unlikely Ballerina by Misty Copeland with Brandy Colbert. So this is Misty's story of becoming the first African-American female principal dancer at the American Ballet Theater. She didn't have a great childhood. It was pretty unstable. Her mother moved her and her siblings from husband to husband around different areas. So she didn't have her first ballet class until she was 13 years old, which is pretty old if you're going to be a prima ballerina. She took it at the Boys and Girls Club and hated it. She never wanted to go back.
Isn't that amazing?
No, thank you. But she was in the right place at the right time, and the teacher that was there was volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club and saw Misty's potential and how she moved and how quickly she could pick up on things she had never been taught before, all these different dance steps. So this teacher happened to have her own studio in the area and offered Misty to come learn with her and kind of took Misty under her wing and really skyrocketed her career. And if you've ever seen Misty dance, it is effortless and elegant. I mean, she makes it look like I could totally go and just leap across the room and nothing to it. I mean, she's just so beautiful and elegant when she dances. And I did put a couple videos in our live binder, so check them out. But throughout the book, she talks about her struggles with not looking like everyone else and not looking like the stereotypical ballerina based on her, not only her build but her color. And she wrote, I felt alone as a black dancer in a professional company. I worked hard in rehearsals and performances, but that's not good enough for everyone. Some people still notice my skin color before they noticed my talent. So she talks about overcoming that and becoming, like I said, the first African-American principal dancer at the American Ballet Theater. And she talks about all the other places she danced at, and one specifically with Prince.
Oh,
she
yeah.
danced on stage with Prince, and people in the ballet world kind of gave her flack for that. And she kind of stood up and said, I introduced a different form of art to a group of people who probably would have never, ever considered going to the ballet or looking at a ballerina dancer or even, entertaining the idea of that. So it was very powerful.
And I love how the teachers in her life, and it reminded me of how important it is as a teacher or a librarian that works with kids, the opportunity that you have to find a Misty Copeland or any kind of kid to encourage. Like back when my first elementary school, I did a live news program, and I had kids do an application, and I hired them all because I thought everybody should have a chance. And so then we had this one girl, Brittany, who was just mean as a snake, and she was in the 4th grade, but probably 182. I mean, we just passed her because nobody wanted to have her twice. But she wanted to be on the news, and all the kids said, no, Miss Ford, don't let her be on the news. She bites. And I said, she bites.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I said, well, if she bites, we have rules and procedures. I'll handle it. Let's just give her a chance. I'm telling you what, Kayleigh, when she came into that news program, she blossomed. Behind the camera, in front of the camera, and we all saw her shell kind of break down and her wall come down, and she started doing her homework. She did her classwork. She lost some of that sass in her mouth, and I'm not sure she bit anybody ever again. And so I think, remember everybody listening, that you have that opportunity when somebody comes into your library or into your classroom, and they might be the quiet person like Misty Copeland. They might be the loud person like Brittany was. But you can offer some sort of programming or literature or something that helps turn them into an amazing ballerina.
And on that inspiring note, so next month, in addition to webcast about the upcoming selections, JLG is going to be adding a new type of webcast. Since I actually know the topic, it looks like the Misty book and Girl Rising could have been part of that webcast. Deborah, tell us about our next webcast.
Yeah, that's right. Next time, it's 2 weeks from now, on May the 9th at 3 o'clock, we're going to do, as usual, a very fast-paced look at women who rock, past and present. One of my favorites is a new book called Feminism for the Real World. And then we'll talk about some other books, fiction and nonfiction, K-12. We'll talk about ways to incorporate women's history and current events into our libraries every day, not just during National Women's History Month. So, for books to programs and teaching strategies to resources, you'll want to be sure to watch this free 30-minute program for all librarians. And in the meantime, you can follow our Pinterest board for books and ideas about women who rock, and let us know what you're doing so we can help toot your horn.
And in addition, and something we've mentioned several times today, is we're creating the resources to help you use these books. And you'll find those you'll find resources for today and other selections in our new JLG BTG Spring 2017 live binder. Boy, JLG BTG, that's a lot of
book talks to go.
Book Talks to Go Spring 2017 live binder. So the videos of Misty Copeland dancing and the information we talked about with Girl Rising will all be on there. And remember to look on the book detail page for a link to the live binder resources so you can find everything you need on our website.
And you can also check out our website after the webcast for a quick recap blog post. You'll find a list of all the books with links to their book detail pages and some other resources. Thanks again to our special guest, Kayleigh Hanlin, for spending some time with us. And thanks to you, our listeners, for supporting these authors and illustrators with your time. Be sure to ask your account rep about all our books and categories, or contact the sales department for more information. Tomorrow, you'll receive an automatic email regarding today's webinar. If you follow the link, you can watch the archived webinar and print your certificate of attendance after 10 minutes of viewing. If you're viewing this live, please stick around. We have a brief survey for you guys. And until next time, thanks again for joining us, and happy reading.